Hello, everybody. Time for another weekly update for the Crane Mountain Gaming game project. Eventually, I will start using a title for it, but I don't want to do that until I have it trademarked. Still making a decision on that. I have a leading candidate. So this is kind of a short week. Obviously, I record Friday morning, so you're only seeing 4 days of the week, but Friday is a holiday, Monday was a holiday as well. And although I worked some of the day, the kids were home from school, so I had a lot of kind of parenting and managerial stuff to do. But that said, a lot of good progress this week on the technical front and the non-technical front. So a couple non-technical things first. One, the LLC package arrived. It actually just came in, so I haven't cracked into it yet. I'll probably dive into that Sunday and start doing some of the follow-up work necessary to get tax registration, everything for that. But that is very good news. We have an artist under contract to work on the first phase of art for the project. So that's mostly going to be the explorer designs, the monsters design, basic scenes and stuff. So I'd like to get those in place, and that'll probably lead to some work, cleanup, adjustments, etc. on the graphics. But I'd like to get that in place to start improving the demos and so on. And then also started talking to someone about doing a soundtrack for the game. Not sound effects yet, but just music soundtrack. And pretty excited about that. It's not a done deal yet, so I'll talk about that more later. But kind of a neat spin on the music. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably know what's going on. I think that's most of the business update stuff. I am visiting family this weekend, so I'm not going to work too much over the weekend. Probably some on Sunday, but not so much this evening, and definitely not tomorrow. But I'll show you kind of the two main things that happened this week. One is very much on the back end, although I'll be able to show a bit on it, and was quite a bit of work. And then the other is definitely on the front end, which I've also been tweeting and posting about in still image form. So I'll give you a look at that. So the first thing I want to show you here, we've actually implemented now player levels. So previously, like Sally Honeybush here is level 1. That's the explorer level. The player actually has a level as well. And basically the way that works is as your explorers level up and various other things happen, you gain experience yourself as well. And that increased experience will level you up on a set progression as well. When you level up, it has a couple main benefits. One, I haven't implemented these yet, but you gain perk points, and you can spend those for advantages like reducing shop costs or increasing shop inventory or other things that don't affect an individual explorer but affect the game in general. They could eventually give you benefits like crafting benefits, other things like that. So I haven't decided what all the perks are going to be yet. I have kind of a list to go through, and I need to make sure that they preserve game balance and aren't like some of them are just insanely better than others. They'll probably require a lot of tuning over time. But that, in addition to how you build your explorers, the perk points will give you different ways to influence how you build yourself and your team, and give you different gameplay opportunities from other players, so that everybody's not on the exact same set pattern. So the current method of gaining player experience right now involves your explorers leveling up. So if you send an explorer on an adventure and the explorer levels up, they're going to gain some experience, and when they hit that level threshold, you're going to gain experience as well. So you have to get a couple explorers to level up before you achieve your first level. So I'm going to send a couple explorers out here while I talk about other stuff to make that happen. First thing I'm going to show you, and we'll come back to this a couple times because I need to do that now to get to the other explorer. The crappy scene switcher drawer here has been replaced with what it's kind of ultimately going to be. So if you've been following the Twitter and the Facebook, the player sort of that you represent has a kind of an onboard computer system, like a PDA type thing, sort of a futuristic mobile phone. And it's a retina projection computer that's hooked into the Habitat network. So it basically appears as an overlay on the scene that they're viewing. So we're in the main scene right now. This is where the player basically spends the game operating out of the main operations center for managing the explorers and inventory and doing all the crafting and things like that. So I'm going to make a little gesture here, which is a clockwise circle gesture. Again, I'm doing this on a Unity demo on the computer. On the phone, this is a touch gesture, which works really well. It works fine with the mouse as well. So I make a little clockwise circle on the screen, and up comes YukariOS. So this is the operating system for your kind of onboard computer. The retinal projection is just overlaying the scene that you're on. So actually things can happen in the background here. You can see dialogue occurring, what the explorers are doing and so on behind the projection. It may be a little distracting, but the idea generally is that that you can kind of view this sort of full screen over the world. Because we're in the main scene, we're actually, the retinal projection is just doing an overlay of this scene, and some of the other scenes work a little bit differently. A couple things going on here. There's an XP bar. This is for player XP. So right now it's at 0%. This will show, 50% here, 75% here, etc. So we'll hopefully see that change when I get the explorers to level up. He's alone, so he just whistled in the background. If you don't want to miss a critical piece of dialogue, you can easily dismiss the overlay and come back. So, you can drop in and out of this very quickly. It loads very fast. This is the water credit symbol. I talked about water credits before, but basically water is super important on the habitat. Your player's background is actually basically water reclamation from asteroids and comets and other celestial bodies, which factors into the story a bit. But the point of that is to bring more water into the habitat. And water credits basically are the currency that people use of exchange, and they're, effectively redeemable for consumption or use of water. I forget what the ratio is that's in the design document, but it's something like 1 water credit is a liter of water or something like that. So this is license 2. This is the player name. This is just new player, which is the default one every time I wipe the database. So this will show your player name here. And we're currently at level 1. We have no perk points to spend yet. And as far as stats go, we've attempted and completed 2 portals so far, so we have a 100% survival rate. This is going to track based on attempts and completion of portals. It gets a little bit off in a couple scenarios right now. I think I haven't quite nailed it down, so there may be a small bug there. We've hired 2 explorers. We've killed 0, so we're doing good so far. We haven't discovered any recipes yet, but we have acquired 1 relic. So this is basically showing our sort of stats and progress through the game. And there will eventually be achievements related to these stats and possibly some awards there as well. A couple other things going on here. This is the overlay is showing the performance of the device running YukariOS as well. So CPU and RAM just kind of wibble back and forth. This is all simulated just to give it some flavor. And we have an extremely high range of frames per second here. The Inbox app, or this is going to be the Messages app where you view messages I'll talk about in a bit. The app isn't implemented yet, but if you there will be a number of apps here to get to sort of different content within YukariOS. This will show you messages. If you activate an app, the performance on the device takes a brief hit. Not the frame rate, but just the CPU and RAM. So there's just a little simulation here that I did just to give it some life and flavor. The Explorer tracking is now shown as part of the overlay. So instead of that crappy slide out drawer, you just pull up the retina projection, and there they are. So you can see their location. Janota's in the shop, and you can switch to view them. So thematically, what's actually happening here is you're not actually going to the shop, but because your YukariOS is hooked into the habitat system, you can project your view. It's a retinal projection of a camera view from the habitat of that room. So if you want to send your explorer to the shop, they have to actually go travel to the shop. But you can always view the shop and check the inventory and other stuff by connecting your display there, and also see what your explorers are doing. So if we switch scenes here, we're actually viewing this through a camera. Because it's a retinal projection, there are no artifacts. It's a direct view of the camera, which is pretty high quality. But we can close out this view back to the main scene. And whenever we're out of the main scene and we're viewing an overlay, we actually see just the details in the top right here. And I may add the performance as well, just to make it more obvious what's going on here. And you can see actually we're in the Habitat 1 on the ring unit, section 1 in unit 13, basically. Go back to the main display. We have a different location here. We're actually in section 2 in unit 5, which is section 2 unit 5 is basically where the player has your shop set up. And then the YukariOS and the 503 RP is retinal projection. This is a sequence of references, which I'll be tickled if anyone gets. Also, the retina projection tells you what percentage of the cones in your retina are working correctly, and what the active rod count is. So this is just a little trivia for people who know how retinas work. So anyway, so that's a bit about YukariOS there. So we're level 1. So if we want to go get Jane Oto, we can hop over to the shop and tell her, hey, it's time to come back. We're going to do some exploration. Now, again, that's instant right now. It's much faster for testing and development, but there'll eventually be travel time between locations for the explorers. So let's see. Sally Honeybush, I think she's geared up, but let's check. Yeah, she has a little bit of frame capacity, so she is wearing a frame. She has a couple power cells. We need to get her a portal cube. So we're going to send these off on some adventures and see how the XP works. Got a portal cube here, a couple power cells, so they should be good to go. So off to the races. And again, these are all touch controls. I'm just doing them with the mouse right now. So these just sort of tap and slide up and down and so on and so forth. You'll notice the font has changed here. Not everything is converted yet, but we're going with a pixel art style for this. So I've switched the font over to Silkscreen, which is a popular kind of bitmappy font, so that the OS and things displayed in the game and so on will eventually match the art. Most of this is not obviously pixelized yet, but YukariOS is fully converted, and a lot of the messages and overlays and dialogues and things have been converted as well. I'll have to do some work on this for readability. But the nice thing about the Silkscreen font is it's quite a bit larger and it's a bit more bold. So it is actually a lot more readable on the mobile view than the prior font was. I could just make the font larger, but I don't know. It actually works out pretty well, especially with the shadows. So like there's a small shadow behind this, increases the readability a lot. So I'm going to be adding shadows to a lot of the text where I can. Can't wait to get off this boat for a bit. Danger or not. Well, your wish is granted, Jane, because you are about to hopefully go survive. Oh, that's interesting. Where are her items? Okay. Little bug there. It didn't load until I swiped. Oh, there's another gesture here which is basically a Game Genie code to load more power cells and cubes into the stash. So if you occasionally see a message popped up that says you have successfully cheated, please reload, it's because I made the hidden gesture to invoke the cheat code. All right. So off to the races. And so again, here's our kind of projection mode where we're connected to the portal device and viewing it. And you're going to go off to the races as well. Okay, so a couple things about the adventures. So we have 2 people adventuring now, and in fact, if we want to switch back and forth, we just pull up the full YukariOS display. We can switch back and forth. Sally Honeybush just leveled up, so she's now level 2, which is fantastic. On return, she is going to grant us some player experience, which we should see track here. So right now we have 0 experience. That should go up, as well as the stats on portals completed. Attempted goes up when you start the portal, completed when they survive. So Jane Ota just leveled up as well. I didn't mean to leave the scene. So a couple other things going on here. This is a new feature that I'm working on that I just started this morning and will probably complete, not today, but probably Sunday and or Monday, hopefully, is basically a messages feature. So one key thing about this, the design of this game, is that you can have your explorers do things asynchronously. So if you send people off to explore and they're on long adventures and you need to go to the grocery store or whatever, they're still adventuring in the background. So you need a good way to understand what they've done when they come back. So, obviously you don't have to sit here and just watch them do stuff the whole time. So they're going to actually produce a report for you. You can obviously watch their action, and there may be ways to interact with them in the future in a sort of active fashion. But, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. So the concept behind the messages is that in YukariOS, there's everybody's back. In YukariOS, there's going to be kind of a message inbox where like ship announcements, game announcements, all sorts of things can be placed. But your explorers will actually create and send to you reports of the adventure. So while they're having the adventure, they're going to basically write up a little summary that's like, oh, I fought this thing, I found this item, I fought this other thing, I made this discovery. I feel pretty good about it. I survived. Oh, by the way, I leveled up, etc. So they're going to basically write up kind of a report of what happened. And when they come back, that's going to get dumped into your inbox, which you can read through the OS. So if you're playing passively or you had to go away or whatever and you missed all the action, you can read a summary of their adventure. And eventually that will be the mechanism that actually triggers the player experience increase. So if they leveled up during the adventure, the message is actually going to have basically an XP attachment, which you're going to claim when you read it. And there will be the capability to attach items and other things to those as well. And you can mark messages read and unread, and they'll delete after a certain period of time and all that good stuff. So now I'm going to do something funky here to trigger the XP gain because I don't have the triggers set up entirely yet. Okay, so I just updated the player by pulling an item from the stash, and this triggers all of the XP increases and stuff to get sent to the client. You're not going to have to do this once I have the message stuff implemented. This is just a shortcut I'm using now. So each of the explorers gained a level, which is 500 experience each. Right now, the numbers are all phony for testing because I make things super easy. So we hit the 1,000 XP threshold, and we're just informed that we are now level 2 ourselves. So if we drop back into YukariOS, we're now level 2, we have a perk point, and by the way, we still have 100% survival rate. We attempted and completed 2 more portals, and along the way, one of them appears to have acquired a relic, which would be in the report. Let's see who got a relic. Yep, so there's a light raiment, and did Jane get one? Yep, Jane got a light raiment as well. Neither of them can equip it yet, because I think they don't have the intuition for it. But so we've acquired those 2 relics, which would be in the report. So other stuff that's going to go on with YukariOS, we have the tracker here. We have the message system. That'll be where you can also view the options and spend your perk points. And then there may be other things added to it over time as well. Game controls, there'll be like a little mock control panel for, like volume controls, turning off music, sound effects, that kind of stuff, any sorts of preferences and so on. So the other thing that happened is in order to get the player experience and the levels and all that kind of stuff to work, I had to go ahead and implement more of the multiplayer controls. So there's not a login and authentication mechanism now, which is coming up kind of maybe a week or 2 from now on the prototype roadmap. But the game is fully multiplayer now. So I can actually create a new player in the database. Well, I don't have to do it through the database, but I can create a copy of this client, plug in the player's ID, because there's no authentication, I just backdoor it, and play a different player, and they can be played in parallel right now. I haven't done a huge amount of testing on that yet because I only run one client at a time right now. But the individual players, have their separate teams, their separate gear, layer levels, etc. So once you can log in and authenticate, create a player, start the game, etc., everything will be in place for it to really be beta tested, at least from a mechanical standpoint. So yeah, here's a message these are the messages that we received from their reports. So they're not bound into the client yet, but they do exist. They don't have a lot of content yet, and you can't view them here yet. but the server is actually creating them, storing them to the database, and sending them on completion of the adventure. So screen's going to pause for a second. I'm going to check my list, see if I missed anything else. The implementation of the player level had a lot of stuff that I had to not really change, but just improve, and actually led to a lot of other features. So now when you hire an explorer, it's based on your player level, which is going to track near or behind the level of your explorers on average in general. So any new person you hire is not going to be better than your current team if they've survived thus far. But like if you level up for a while and then your team all dies off and you hire a new person, you're not back completely at 1. It's going to be based on your player level. And then the shop inventory tracks to your player level as well. So as your player level goes up, the gear that you can purchase rather than craft and find from the shop will improve over time as well. Let's see, did I miss anything else? I forgot to show the XP bar halfway. That's terrible of me. Let's, for fun, while I look over the list, let's send somebody else adventuring here. We're going to just swap some equipment because we'll trade with Barayin. So here, have a power cell and a power cell, crude frame, a bolt pistol, and we'll have to get a cube out of the system. There we go. I've cheated again. You're all going to try and figure out what that motion was now, aren't you? It's not as easy as you think it is. Easy to make by accident, but not easy to figure out. So let's go explore. This is just so I can show you what the XP bar looks like. So right now, so actually, yeah, we over-leveled a little bit. We're at 33% of the next level. So you can see the XP bar a bit. That'll probably go up as a result of that exploration. So I'm going to pause a little bit. Remember, stuff's still happening on the server, but this is just like moving away from the client on your phone, like going back to the home screen or whatever. Everything catches up when you get back. GTL player stats, credits, blah, blah, blah. Yep, there we go. So yeah, that's kind of the update for now. So a few things to note in terms of what's coming up next. We're going to finish the implementation of the message system, which is going to make other things like shop reset announcements and restocks and other things a little bit more interesting. So you're going to get a message for that if you're away and don't see it on screen, so that you know that happened. If you miss it in real time, other things like that. That will improve the delivery of the player experience to the player, and probably we'll set up the attachments later because those aren't critical right now. So we're going to complete that message class, and we're going to do a couple other cleanup things, and then we're going to work on either some of the story elements potentially or the player perks. I'm holding off on the story element a little bit because as I engage with the artists and things, I get some ideas to tweak it. So I'd like to maybe let that set up a little bit now. So we may do the player perks, a couple other improvements, add some more levels of content to the game, and we may actually do the accounts and authentication piece. I've been slow rolling that a little bit too because having to log in, etc., sort of slows down my testing or requires me to build custom controls to bypass it. So kind of iffy on that, but we'll see. All right, we are going to trigger the update again. Yep, okay, so yep, we have one new message, which can't read yet, but it's informing us that the message has been received from Varayin's exploration. And let's see, we didn't gain any XP for that, because, why didn't we? Oh yeah, because we're already level 2. Okay, so anyway, that's what I wanted to show you this week, and a little bit of preview about what's coming next. Hopefully before too long I'll be able to start adding some of the art elements and making those adjustments so that, conceptually and thematically it starts to come together. Get the music in there before too long so you get some of the vibe of what's going on. But that's it. So productive week, if a bit short and distracted due to the double holidays and the kids and family stuff, but feeling pretty good about the progress so far. Budget is still strong. Got the LLC stuff came in. Got healthcare sorted out, so managed to use an exchange plan and knock about a third off of my monthly healthcare costs for basically the same coverage. Some stuff's a little bit better, some stuff's a little bit worse or higher deductible, but more or less pretty much the same coverage at a lot less price. So that'll be helpful on the budget as well, because all of that, that doesn't get spent on a monthly basis increases my runway. So there you go. As always, if you have questions, comments, feedback, ideas, etc., feel free to leave a comment on this video, or you can find me on Twitter at CraneMTGaming, abbreviation for mountain, at CraneMTGaming, or on the Facebook page, which is Crane Mountain Gaming as well. Peace.